It's 9 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just pretend I can barely see the flag, but just in the front.
Okay, need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll
Motion
second
made
it.
and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried. Motion to approve the minutes. Has everyone read the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And second, discussion. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried. Okay, public comment. Remind you that there be no personal attacks. If you have any complaints regarding employee or a department, please direct those to Human Resources. Would anyone wish to address the board?
Brian Van Gorp, Yucatan Township. Houston County Protectors is not against mining for construction and agricultural use. We want to see that continue. We also want to see enforcement of county ordinances. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Today we filed a formal complaint at the Planning and Zoning Office against the county for malfeasance regarding the current ordinance on approximately 120 non-conforming mines. These mines are required to have a reclamation plan and do not. Any mine not being able to prove activity via tax returns, receipts, or expense records within 2014 is past due to be reclaimed. Dan Griffin says that is the majority of non-conforming mines. We cannot give an exact number because no one knows what it is. Such is the state of monitoring enforcement. You commissioners are ultimately responsible. The Planning and Zoning Administrator is responsible for day-to-day monitoring and enforcement, but you, his bosses, are responsible for oversight and direction. The idea of working towards compliance must also be addressed. You are either compliant or you are not. What if I was stopped for going 70 in a 55 and said, well, I was slowing down, I'm moving towards compliance? Or what if I was caught practicing veterinary medicine without a license, but said, well, I'm applying to veterinary school, I'm working towards compliance? This idea is ridiculous and nothing more than an excuse. How long will you continue to pretend everything is okay? The State Attorney General's office says Houston County acts in an arbitrary and capricious manner. The MPCA says we only have problems in 2 counties. Houston County is by far the worst. The DNR says Houston County is not following the letter of the law. There needs to be a good public record, and we don't have it here. How long will you continue to pretend everything is okay in Houston County? Thank you.
Does anyone else care to address the board?
My name's Brady Auger. I own River Valley Convenience Store in Houston. Apparently, it was brought to my attention a couple weeks ago that there was an ordinance passed last June or July about any business selling tobacco or alcohol cannot have employees younger than 18 years old working there. Our store runs on kids out of high school. And now that this ordinance, and we still have yet to see anything in writing, this is what we've heard from BP. We've had to hire on more adults, which is costing us more money. And we don't sell alcohol, we strictly sell tobacco. So my questions are, why was it adopted? Why weren't we informed? And what's it going to take for us to exempt me? That's it.
Morning, Commissioners. Ken Jumper from La Crescent Township. Good to see all of you again. I have 2 points I want to make during this public comment. First of all, several of us filed specific complaints against specific mines with the zoning administrator this morning. The 4 of these mines are permitted with CUPs, and yet they lack a reclamation plan. A huge deficit that we would like corrected and noted by the planning, and I'm going to give you a copy of this just as a courtesy. Secondly, I want to sharply criticize you, Commissioner Schultz, Commissioner Storley, and Commissioner Walters for your reluctance to have a public hearing on the proposed extravaganza for a highway shop. I don't know if you're unaware, but people in this county are really tired of increasing property taxes. And we don't need a Cadillac highway shop on a Chevrolet budget. People are struggling under the property tax burden in this county. And all that's going to do is increase the property tax burden. I can understand why you don't want to have a public hearing, because you're going to get an earful of opposition to your proposal. So I would strongly encourage you to have a public hearing. Just like you didn't want to face the reality of the opposition on frac sand mining, you don't want to face the reality of the opposition on this highway shop. Have a good day, Commissioners.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Gretchen Cook. I'm from the city of La Crescent. Commissioners, I am asking you to have a public hearing on the new garage. I'm sure many people have many questions on spending $6 million of our tax dollars. I have questions. Number one, most counties keep vehicles in township buildings. Are we going to be the only county in the area that has them all in one place, so all of the plowing and all the dump trucks and everything come from Caledonia down to the river? I'm sure all the townships house them now. Why do we have to have spaces for 18 vehicles and snowplows? What is the estimated operational cost, the heating and cooling of trucks? What about having an insulated building with plug-ins? It does not have to be a state-of-the-art building. Number three, shouldn't it be built on the existing site, which already has environmentally soiled and will require massive cleanup before you can sell it? That's going to cost a whole lot of money. We, the taxpayers, want some answers. We want to be able to ask these questions and get the answers before you sink us with $6 million to $8 million. Thank you.
Michael Fields, Winnebago Township. Here we go again, Commissioners. Those of us in the reality-based community get cold comfort going back every few years to say, I told you so. Now you want to spend $6 million on a highway department pleasure palace when a suitable structure could be built for a tiny fraction of that amount. It seems so grandiose. I can't help but think of Nero and his building projects in Rome, or Hitler huddled with his pet architect giving Berlin an unneeded makeover. And now I hear you want to go ahead with this mad scheme without even having a public hearing. 3 of you are actually contemptuous of the democratic process. I'm a 14-year veteran of the Navy and Minnesota Army National Guard, and I take this democracy stuff pretty seriously. So when I hear that Commissioner Walter, for example, thinks citizens are too stupid to weigh in on how our money is spent, I get riled. Hold the public hearing, Commissioners, and after you've heard what I expect will be a universal condemnation of this waste of money, I expect you to do your job. Forget about your friends in the construction business and represent the will of the people. Try it. You might like being on the right side for once. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to address the board? If not, we'll continue with our meeting. Okay, Mary Marshall. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, okay. I'll let our new
partners here introduce themselves in just a moment, but just to give you a little bit of background about kind of how this came about and what we're up to, I think it would be a great idea for commissioners to kind of be in the know here. Last summer, I suppose it was in June or July, after we had done some internal strategic planning about our services and programs and how to become more efficient, as well as how to address some community needs, I became very well aware of the Neighbors in Action program in the La Crescent area, the successes, the services that they provide to people, just the awesome job. And so at that point, I thought it would be really awesome if we could expand their service area into perhaps the Caledonia area. We know that there is similar type services already kind of sprouting up in the Spring Grove area. And so after contacting Sandy from Neighbors in Action, Sandy Graves and Neighbors in Action in La Crescent, we began to have some conversations with some other local partners, with the schools, as well as the churches and some other interested individuals in the community. And I'll kind of let Sandy take it from there, but just to let you know, we have done some internal grant writing to find some funds. And so through Public Health, we'll be actually, we applied for both the UCare grant and the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant, so we have $50,000 of startup dollars to replicate the same type of La Crescent and Neighbors in Action program in Caledonia area. So we're here to kind of let you know where we are in that process, to invite you to ask any questions after Sandy kind of gives you a brief on where we are to date.
Hi there, my name is Sandy Graves and I am the Neighbors in Action Program Director. Neighbors in Action started in La Crescent in July of 2007, and we started with a grant from the Minnesota Department of Human Services. It was a grant called the Community Service Development Grant, and the purpose of that grant was to help mostly smaller rural communities develop systems in order to care for the elderly, people and people with disabilities. As you all are probably well aware, the baby boomer population is aging, and as that population ages, there's going to be a big strain on resources in the state and certainly in the counties. And so we were awarded these grant dollars to help us develop a system in La Crescent to meet those needs. We started in July of 2007, and our system is that we recruit volunteers to provide services to people who are frail, elderly, or with disabilities, or people who are just experiencing some kind of a life situation that makes them need whatever they're asking for. They're unable to perform a certain service on their own. So we provide transportation to doctor's appointments and errands. We take people out to get their groceries. We also do outdoor chores, things like lawn mowing and snow shoveling for people. We provide light housekeeping for people who aren't able to vacuum or dust or clean their restrooms on their own. We do friendly visits and companionship for people who are shut in or who aren't able to get out. And then just other things as people request. If someone isn't able to clean their gutters, or if they're not able to change a light bulb or change the batteries in their smoke detectors, we go into their homes utilizing our volunteers, who, by the way, all have background checks conducted, and we go through a orientation process and a training period with them. And we match people with other people to get their needs met. It's a pretty basic concept, and it's been really successful in La Crescent. Like I said, we started in July of 2007, and we've grown now over the last 7.5 years, where we serve almost 200 people every year, utilizing almost 200 volunteers every year. Those numbers go up and down, and certainly they vary by service, but we're really proud of what we do there. And the biggest component of our program is not just the chore component, it's helping people stay connected in the community. When people are older and they lose their driver's license and they're not able to get out, it's really hard for them to maintain a sense of connectiveness to the community. And so we try to continue that and help them be members of the community by connecting them with another individual. We're super excited to be asked by Mary to come down here to Caledonia, and I'd like to introduce Abby Dean.
Hello.
We just hired Abby to work with us both in La Crescent and in Caledonia. And so what we're going to be doing here in town, we started, like Mary said, last summer We developed a committee of people to investigate whether or not there really were needs in this community. And as you are all probably well aware, that came back with a resounding yes, there are needs here. And we decided to give it a try. We were thrilled to receive the grants with Public Health to help us get started. And I'm also in the process of waiting to hear back. I wrote another 2-year contract with that grant that I mentioned at the beginning with the state of Minnesota. If we receive that, that will be 2 more years worth of funding. So essentially we'll have 3 years of funding to get us started here in Caledonia. And where we're at right now is we're working with the school district here in Caledonia. They are donating us office space so that we have a space to house our program. And then we're working to recruit volunteers, and that's the step that we're at right now. Abby literally just started on April 1st, and so we're just getting out to the churches and the service organizations now in the next couple of weeks. We'll develop a database of volunteers, people willing to help provide the services. And once we get them oriented and trained, then we'll begin taking requests from people in need. And then basically we'll just be up and running, and hopefully we'll be able to grow to have the program here in Caledonia be as successful as it is in La Crescent. And who knows, a couple years from now we may be able to just expand throughout the entire community of, all of Houston County. So, did you have anything you wanted to add, Abby, to that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did you have any questions for me, or did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, I think it's really awesome, this new partnership that we have, and for us as an agency, part of the impetus was that we really want to more fully utilize our internal care professional staff, our home health aides, for doing primarily home health aid work, which is, personal cares and things that are incidental to personal cares in the home. Less chore, more actual home health aid work for which they were trained. And so this gives us that option for the people now that not only that we serve in La Crescent, but also in Caledonia as well. So
the only other thing I will add with this is that, like I said, we're thrilled with the partnership with Public Health, the grant funding through Blue Cross Blue Shield and UCare, the possibility of the funding through through the state. That being said, we will have to sustain our program. This isn't free to run. So over that course of that 3 years, we'll be building a sustainability plan. There will be some fees for services charged based on a sliding fee scale. We'll certainly be looking at other support from the community. So just so everyone is aware, once we get this up and running, we'll still have to sustain it. So I don't
You know what's really cool about it too is the people who volunteer for it get as much out of it as the people who are getting service, so it's a two-way street. It's really cool. I think it's neat you're expanding up this way too, because it's neat to take a program that's been so successful and keep it growing and make a wider area.
So if you know of people that could utilize the service, or if you know of folks that are interested in being volunteers, now would be the time.
Or if you have people that we should be connecting with, we're open to all of that. There's a phone number on here and an email address on here. This is Abby's information right now. Certainly do not hesitate to call us if you have any questions. If we're not available, leave a message. We'll get back to you. We're in and out a lot we go out to every person's home that we see. So a lot of times we're out of the office, so don't hesitate to leave us a message.
How many clients do you have in the Crescent?
I say we serve about 200 every year.
Okay.
That some of those are one-time service, others are 3 or 4 times a week. So, we do serve a large number of people. I would say we serve on average probably 50 to 60 a month.
And your volunteer resource, how many do you have there?
I think right now our database is about 150 people.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Again, some of those are, they do a one-time breaking job, but others, we have volunteers who will drive 2 or 3 times a week. So driving is about 60% of what we do in the Crescent. And here in Caledonia, that could look a little different. There's a few more resources here for some of that rural transportation than we have in La Crescent, but because of the distance from Caledonia to La Crosse and some of the major medical centers, we're presuming that there's a bigger need here for some of those things too. So, you know, it's kind of going to be a work in progress, as it was in La Crescent. You just kind of start with trial and error and see what works, and if it's not working, then we make changes, which is one of the beauties of being a small nonprofit program without a lot of overhead or a lot of people telling you exactly how you have to do things, because it's pretty easy to make changes when something doesn't work. So.
And I think we're hopeful as we, don't want to get too far ahead of this, but as we kind of get up and running here in Caledonia, that we still have an area in that Houston area that we really like to figure out something in the future. But for now, we have to kind of concentrate on Caledonia, getting this up and running. We know that Spring Grove is pretty well taken care of for their volunteer needs, but we do need to go in that direction as well in the future.
And it's really neat that it's not a, you have to qualify by a certain income to get it. That's what really is neat, and, to get that message that it's for everybody.
I laugh because some people, when we first started, felt like this was a quote-unquote welfare program, and I'm like, no, it's not that at all. In fact, I am probably if someone says my income is, $1,000 a month, great. I want no verification. I want nothing. I trust you. That's what you say. That's what we base your fee on. And again, that being said, people, if they can afford to pay for their services, we expect them to pay for their services.
And they're more than willing to just
and they're more than
to
willing
get
to.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And it makes a good connection too, because they can pay something towards their
Absolutely.
services.
And we thought, I actually had some people who, when we said there were some of our services like friendly visits that I don't charge anything for, and people, well, I won't take it if it's free. So it's kind of a neat mix of people, and we meet the most wonderful people. We're able to make those great connections, and we're really proud of the relationships that have been built and the work that we've done. So we're excited to move forward here.
Have you made connections as far as volunteers in Caledonia?
We're working on that right now. We have some representation from most of the local churches who have served on this kind of startup committee that we've had. But we're just right now reaching out to those connections and trying to figure out how we're going to work with each of those. We have a few strategies that we're hoping to employ to get folks from the churches. But, now, people don't necessarily always connect at church. So we'll be looking at lots of different strategies.
There's Lions Clubs,
people.
Rotary Club,
Region. All of
Yeah.
those service organizations are on our list of connections to make. And we've started those conversations with them. It's just, now we need your help by actually to volunteer. So.
Sounds like a wonderful service.
Great.
It is.
Absolutely
I've
great.
seen it, nothing but good in La Crescent with it. And my father even used it at one time before he went in the nursing home. So.
Okay, great.
Right.
Great. I always love hearing those stories because I never really know who's connected to who. So.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else have anything else?
We'll keep you posted. let
Great.
know
Sounds
kind of
good. Thank you.
progress.
Thanks.
And,
Great.
Thank you.
Great program. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Does anybody want any of these? I have a few extras.
She's in the back of the room.
Oh, she is. Okay. And Tess, are you ready?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, we have a few things on the HR agenda this morning. The first of which we'll start with is the proposed 2015-2017 labor agreement between Law Enforcement Labor Services, Local 60, which are the unlicensed jailer dispatcher unit, and the County of Minnesota. You've had both the red line version, and then you also have the final version there for your signature. The key amendments for this round of negotiations was the increase of the probationary period for new hires from 6 months to 12 months. There was cleanup in language for insurance subsequent to the last agreement we had where we were implementing the consumer-driven health care plan and phasing in the contributions towards the HSA and VIVAs. Now additionally, the HSA and VEBA contributions are aligned with the first pay period of the quarter, which is slightly different than what we had previously. There is a change in the uniform allowance for 2015, 16, and 17, an increase of $25 for each year. That brings 215 to 425 per year, 216 to 450, and 217 to 475. It had been numerous years since there was had been an increase in uniforms. Wages, being the last item that was changed, is consistent with the LALS licensed officers unit that we recently addressed. 2015 as a 2% increase, 2016 is 2.5, and 2017 is a 3.0. If there are any questions, I'm happy to address them at this time.
And Judy and Dana were the two that were involved
Yes,
with the
Commissioner
negotiations.
Chomey,
Okay.
Commissioner Storley were the two commissioners on the committee, and the contract has been reviewed by County Attorney Samuel Yant.
Okay. So everything's been reviewed and is in order.
Should be. Been reviewed by the other side as well.
That's what I meant.
Really.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Sounds good. So you need a motion on this to approve the labor agreement.
Yes, Commissioner, I do.
I will make a motion to approve the labor agreement.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Any discussion?
Just gonna let everybody know I'll stay true to my vote from last week. I voted it down. I'll vote it down again for the same reasons. Obviously, I've been pushing for, the raises having a pay freeze at least for a year. So everything else looks fine, but I've always had an issue, and I'll stay true to my word. But that's what it is.
I understand, Commissioner.
Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much. I will communicate that immediately to their representative. And next, is Karen Kohlmeyer. We had a busy week last week in interviewing. We had several candidates we interviewed for the case-aid, the two case-aid positions. We have two successful finalists that we're recommending to the committee this morning, the board, excuse me, rather. One is going to be the support child protection social workers. May do some other things as well, as the team over there does. The other is to replace the front desk and support the financial workers. Each of these individuals came to us with very good qualifications. We've done our reference checks on them. They would be hired conditioned upon successful completion of a background check. So at this, we'd like to take each one of them separately. And before we do those, would you like to comment on the process and the individuals?
Sure. We were very lucky. We had a very nice pool of applicants in which to look and draw into. Both of these bring very strong technical skills as well as customer service skills, which are both things that we need in both of the positions we have. I believe they'll both make welcome additions to our team and both bring different things to the table for us.
So with that, we would like to, we're recommending a motion to hire Kelly Rowland as a 1.0 FTE probationary case aide, an hourly rate of $14.19 per hour, effective May 11, 2015.
Need a motion for, okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to hire Kelly.
I'll second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
I will comment about Kelly's background just briefly. I am reminded that she comes to us with extensive event planning for Logistics Health, for planning military health events, which are very complicated. And operate on short deadlines and involve a fairly large team. So I think this is really going to be a very positive addition to our, she will be a very positive addition to our staff. Next, we have Joanne Curley, and we're recommending she be hired as a 1.0 FTE probationary case aide. B22, an hourly rate of $14.19 per hour, effective May 4th, 2015, condition upon successful completion of background. And she comes to us with an extensive background in the banking industry. So
That'll help.
I'll make a motion to approve hiring Joanne Curley as a 1 full-time case aide.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
thank you very much. Is Brian here? Next, we have on our agenda a request to approve an amended pay range for adding the position of senior engineering technician. Your document looks like this. We had an individual employee who had consistently over time, his position he has expanded his professional expertise, and his position has expanded to reflect that, including bridge license certification. And do you want to talk about that just briefly?
Yep. This employee's been an employee at the county for, I believe, 14 years. He's been taking on more and more roles over the years. Started back when the flooding hit, 2007-08. The demand really skyrocketed for us to have more trained staff to do other skills. So he's taken over and is now certified with the state or with the feds as a bridge lead inspector. So he can go out there single-handedly shut down any county or township bridge in the county for if there's any issues for safety, and then notify me of what's going on. And then he's also been out inspecting some of our larger bridge construction projects as they go to get replaced. Some of these larger reconstruction projects he's able to inspect on. So overall, skills has just developed to that point where he's really getting close to the other engineering assistants that we have within the county. So we'd like to get him in the right banding and compensation for where he should be for what his duties are, what they need to be for the department.
All right. So with that, we sent our employees, when there is potentially a misalignment between their job duties and their job position, they fill out a position analysis questionnaire. HR audits the position, which involves asking a lot of questions that Brian and this individual responded to. Then we send it to our outside consultant, Gallagher and Associates. It was formerly known as Fox Lawson. And we send it to them. Their independent analysis through the decision band method reflected that at this time, this would be a B25. And so with that, I'm recommending that the board formally accepts and approves this new wage grid, which has, I also communicated with the union and have explained everything there. And so we had a meet and confer, so to speak, over the phone about it. And so they're fine.
Tess, real quick, because you're going from a B24 to a 25, do you have to start all the way back down to step 1, or can it just be transferred
No,
into
they
step
will.
3?
In this instance, they're going to a step 3.
Say that one time.
In this instance, going to a step 3.
Right, because of the experience you've already had, it's carried over, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's not probationary either.
How often do bridges need to be inspected?
Depending on the conditions, some bridges once a year, some bridges, well, if they're in really bad shape, they can be up and down all the way every week. But typically once a year for bridge that's getting into poor condition. Bridge in really good condition might be once every other year, and box culverts that are large enough to be considered a bridge by the federal definition is once every 4 years. However, we do inspect all of our bridges every year, just that we stay on top of things so we don't miss something.
Okay. How many bridges do we have in the county?
Just under 200.
Okay.
A lot of bridges.
And
Yeah.
Commissioner Zemeski, just for further clarification, it has been our practice, as a generality, that when there is this promotional opportunity, if you will, or reclassification, either way, that we have 3% or one step, whichever is greater. So if you, this individual currently, which we haven't gotten to him yet, but is at step 3 of B242, and that, so that would.
Yep.
Any more discussion, questions?
Do you just need a motion to approve the pay range?
Yes, I do, the pay
Okay.
grade.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the pay range that was attached to our papers.
Handout, yeah. Motion is made, is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded, any further discussion?
Is that technically just a banding change?
It's adding a new band, too. Many times when we have a position analysis, well, in my experience here, we haven't had to add a new range. They fit into an existing range, so I haven't had to bring this before you. But this time we're creating a new range.
Any more questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
And I think I forgot to CC you on that. So, next, we are asking to change the banding of the employee, Mr. Pat Burns, Highway Engineering Technician, from a B242 at $21.88 per hour to a B25 as a senior engineering technician at an hourly wage of $23.92. And so we need a motion for that as well.
I'll make a motion to change the banding of Pat Burns from a B24 to a B25.
Motion is made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion?
And I'm assuming same thing applied, it was just further education to improve their position is why?
This is the individual
This is the person.
that
Okay, so
we were
this is
talking
the
about.
someone. I got what you're doing now. First it was the banding, now it's to.
First, we had to approve the wage before we could approve assigning him to that band.
Any more questions, discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried.
Thank you, Commissioners. And lastly, for Highway, we're asking to initiate, sadly, we're asking to initiate a search for a highway maintenance operator, B232, starting at an hourly wage of $18.51 an hour. This is to replace the gentleman that we recently lost.
Motion to approve an initial search for highway maintenance operator.
Motion is made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
Anything else, Brian?
Thank you.
It was a busy week. You're next.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
At this time, we're asking that the board formally accepts the resignation of full-time jailer dispatcher Kelsey Connor, effective May 5th, 2015, and thank her for her service to the county. You want to comment on Kelsey?
Yep, Kelsey's been with us for a few years now, and she's been a very good employee. Just moving on, moving to what she feels is better for her career, so we want to thank her for her services. And
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation with an appreciation for her service.
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Next, we're asking to change the employment status of Alex Bird from .5 FTE probationary jailer dispatcher to a 1.0 FTE jailer dispatcher, effective on April 29th. Mr. Bird, like I said, is currently at the jail, and this will fill the vacancy that is being left by Ms. Connor.
Motion to approve the employment status of Alexander Bird from .5 to 1.0 probationary jailer dispatcher.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion?
How long does he have left on his probationary period?
Quite a while, because he has to complete 6 months probation at part-time.
I didn't know if the union part where they were going to a 1-year probation starts with him or not, or?
No, because his employment status, other than his percent time, really has not changed.
Okay,
I'm not recommending that.
just checking.
He seems to be working out pretty well. He's excited about the job. I've talked to him.
Yes, he is.
so.
Yeah, he's been with us for some time now.
Yeah.
And he's very excited, very
Very.
happy for it.
Yeah, he is very, very happy to be there.
Wants to remain local, I think, so.
Mm-hmm.
I might add that he was next in line as a finalist in our recent full-time search, so this just makes sense.
Any other discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
So now we are down to our last item for the staffing, and that is to approve us going forward with to conduct a .5 FTE probationary dispatcher search at this hourly wage. Because I do need to inform the commissioners, because this is, I have advertised this already this weekend, and what I did because we were looking at potentially having the issue of just not having enough staff at the jail, and time was of the essence, because there are some other things that potentially may have been in the works for some folks as far as voluntarily moving on, potentially. You know, we have a very fluid workforce. So we have, and our ads cost us anywhere between $800 and $1,000 a month. So because we excuse me, I'm all tongue-tied, $800 to $1,000 for each ad. Because we had an ad going out last weekend, I advertised for a pool, didn't say, which is a good idea that we have a pool of potential candidates to draw from for the jail because of the consistent turnover we have there. But I didn't need to let you know that, and I did that for both timeliness as well as the fact that having one display ad with several positions is more cost-effective for the county. But there would not be any other, so it didn't really add any cost to us. We wouldn't take any formal steps, though, beyond that without your consent. So if you saw that, I need to explain it.
I'll make a motion to approve conducting a search for a .5 probationary jailer dispatcher.
A motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion?
I think that was really a good idea to put it on the advertising to save the county money too. Appreciate it.
Tess and myself talked about that beforehand. We just thought, you know,
Yep.
it's gonna be cost savings for the county as well, so.
Yep.
Discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next on the agenda is the county approving the wellness grant of the amount of $17,690. I'm not sure if Mary is still here. We presented this, the public health director presented the proposal for the grant. The grant did come through. It will be paid towards the, I think, $1,200 was paid up front and $1,500, the balance would be paid at the end of the program. But we do need a formal acceptance of that grant and acknowledgement of it.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the wellness grant.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion?
Any grant, matching that we have to do with this one, or this?
No.
Okay, sounds good.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
And just as a commentary, we received slightly more money than was being applied for. I have to believe it's because of the quality of the program that Director Marshall put together. And please note that part of that programming has been adopted by the Southeast Service Cooperative themselves to bring in some of the staff that Mary has introduced them to. So I think she put together a top-notch program.
She does a good job.
And lastly, I have a request for a mobile device stipend of $50 per month from the county auditor. I forwarded the policy to you, and Auditor Miners can speak on her own behalf there. I believe her job fits into the criteria that's set forth in policy.
Care to speak to that?
Well, I guess as an elected official, I'm available 24/7. As you all know, I'm in contact with many of you outside of office hours. I use it for work all the time.
I agree.
Just like Dana said, I thought you already had that
Yeah.
one. So I guess there's nothing.
Same
new.
here. Obviously, I thought so too.
Yeah. Motion to approve the request for the auditor for $50 a month per diem.
Motion and seconded. Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried.
That's all the business I have today.
Okay. Thank you, Tess. Okay, next up, Houston County Agricultural Society, the Fair Board. Good morning.
Guess we got some concerns on where you guys are talking about putting this new county shop. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I've gotten a lot of phone calls as president of the board. As you know, right now, at 11 o'clock every morning at our fair, that parking lot is full. So any more that the county takes away from that, you're hurting the fair. Other than that, I don't know what you want me to go with this. We talked to Steve a little bit, and
Let me just first start out by, I don't know, there's been a lot of rumors going around, and I know where a few of these rumors have stemmed from. There's been no discussion of taking any more land. I think the architect had made a comment about in the process of developing and building that he had just made a passing comment, but the board's never talked about it. The one thing that we have talked about in the past that I was glad to have you guys come in, because I think there should be some more discussion about it, was in the past, the Fair Board has talked about putting in a new sheep and hog building, and I assume that's still planning to go through, correct? You know, we had talked many years ago about the possibility of combining that with some needs that the county has for a building, since you only use those buildings for a small window throughout the course of the year. Would it be a possibility to utilize and, I guess, share services of that facility with the county to try and help us for our storage needs and you guys to have a building during the fair? So from my aspect, that's my concern, is when going through with this project, looking at it from every aspect, is that something that's been looked at? Is the Fair Board still interested? Is the county interested? Just more or less having that discussion. As far as the space goes, as far as I know, and in the discussion that we've had in the public meetings, if the buildings decided to go there, it wouldn't take up any more land than is currently utilized right now. So just to put the record straight, that there hasn't been any discussion of taking 5 acres, which I've had a few people say that. Some commissioners have said that the board was planning on taking 5 acres. I've never heard of that in a public meeting or back that.
I never heard 5 acres, but I know that when they laid the land out, there was mention of moving into the fairgrounds.
Well, there was
even from your guys' print that you had in the newspaper last week, it showed that you're taking basically the handicap parking area and making that part of your lot if it was to be put there, and a good share of where the field is below the horse barn.
Well, two things.
According to your guys' thing you had in the paper. And that's
True.
what concerns me. I
Yeah,
mean,
but two things just to straighten that out. One, that's just one drawing. That's where they chose to put it. That can be altered or pushed or things can be shoved around. That's just an example. Number two, I don't believe any of the board members, would agree to. I don't think we would have anything that's off limits if we had a gravel area to allow people to park closer over there. But you know, the plans that were shown was just one architect's rendering. I know I've got it on my computer. Those buildings do fit if we stagger them in a different location. They fit with no more use. I know there's a big push by some of the board members and some of the people in the county to get it out by the school, so I'm sure there's probably going to be a little bit of a push, and if it makes the fair board try and get on the side of putting it by the school, I'm sure that's probably what a lot of the rumors are going around. But you know, I don't want anybody to go off half-cocked thinking that the board's overstepping their bounds. I know we've got a lease until, what, 2017 or something like that?
19.
There you go. So it's not, there's no discussion that I'm aware of. Teresa or Dana, I know had mentioned too, I don't know, Judy or Steve, as far as in the public, that there's been nothing that's been set that we're going to be infringing on what's already there.
I think that this is really good for you guys to come forward, because I think as we're planning this building, we do need to hear from you guys and what you use the fairgrounds for, because some people feel that all that land is only used for those so many days of fair. And I think it's important that you keep, you know, people informed of what all that fairgrounds is used for.
And back to, I guess, maybe some discussion, is that still, I mean, for building structures, I mean, is there still discussion with the fair board as far as possibilities of working with the county and doing that, or is that kind of off the table?
it's been off the table for right now because being we don't own that property, we can't get no funding for it. We can't borrow against it. We can't do nothing with it. So it's all been put on the back burner until we can figure out either some fundraising to build this business or building, or a huge donation from somebody. It's just been put on the back burner. We did tear down the sheep barn, and we're going to put that in a tent for this year and see how that works. It was so unsafe that if a wind came through, and it'd be someone getting hurt, and we didn't need that either. But as far as that building, I mean, we're all open to suggestions on that. Keep in mind, the Fair Board struggles all year, every year, to just keep in existence. So the monies are not there to do this.
Right, and that's why I say this is the opportunity to maybe have a win-win for both parties here. From my personal side, you know, the fair's always been there for me as a little kid. Everybody that grew up around here has a special place and would love to see the county fair keep going. I understand that, you know, there are struggles financially, whether it be the county or city or the fair board. And that's something that, you know, we understand the necessities to keep the fair going and keep the kids interested, especially with the 4-H programs and all the things going on. You know, if that's an issue and needs to be looked at, I guess I would like to see the board look at that a little bit more in detail of if that's a possibility to make that a win-win, and you guys would be able to get a building. You know, it's still on the county grounds, but yet you guys would have a place to utilize, and we would have a place for storage, and, you know, I mean, have that coexistence. And I don't, if the rest of the board has the same sentiments or not, I don't know.
I think it's been brought up, and as I recall, you know, one of the things, I guess, is placement of the building so that it's accessible for both parties, both entities. And the other side of the thing is, when it comes to storage, when the county stores things, much of it is small items, not on wheels, not wheeled things, and it would probably take some time to move all of that out in order to have have it available ahead of the fair and sometime, you know,
my major
after the
concern
fair.
with that, I don't mean to interrupt, but my major concern with that is if you did that as shared building, you're going to have to concrete that whole building. The penning's going to have to come out of there for you guys to utilize it. I think the cost of that would be double of what it would be just to build a standard hog and sheep building.
Well, let me ask you this. A couple of things for cold storage. I don't necessarily know, you know, if it's off-season stuff, plows, it may or may not have to be concreted. That would have to be something looked at, whether it's a gravel floor or concrete. If it was concrete, which I think would be, obviously would be a nicer go and last longer, you know, I would assume portable pens, just like they do up at the state fair, that you could take down, and obviously we have people that would help out to put something like that up, you know, and for a lot of the off-season stuff, whether it be plows or what have you, that, or equipment that's not utilized so much, you know, to have a couple of guys, you know, empty it out. I know it's an inconvenience, but, you know, like I said, otherwise you're gonna have to front, you know, potentially a couple $100,000 for building on your side, plus we would have to have it on our side, you know, I mean, I know it's an inconvenience, but that little bit of window, is it worth it? And I guess that's the discussion to have, is, you know, at least look at that.
Like the bus, where the buses are in Rec Arena there right now, in the contract with them, we are allowed to use that building, I think it's 3 times throughout the year, other than the fair.
Yep.
And if somebody wants in there for a different time that's more than the allotted number of times, we actually gotta pay them to take the buses up.
Sure.
And that's the way that building goes.
Sure. Yep.
You know, and it'd be great if the county would help us do that, but let's go back to the original thing. If the county wants to have a storage place there, is our county shop going where it exists right now? Because otherwise, you're wasting money by putting that storage building up there, and if you're gonna be out here, you're gonna be here.
And that's hence why we
The
wanted you to
logistics
come
side
in
of it don't
today,
make
so that we
sense.
could get all on the same page.
It'd be part of our decision.
Yeah, we
Yep.
haven't made a decision on where it's gonna be yet. We're just gathering all the information. That's why we're really glad
Right.
you're here today.
Right. So I mean, on that side of it, I don't know how to answer that. Would it be
Yeah.
good to share it? Yeah, it'd be great for everybody, but the logistics of it are gonna depend on what you guys end up doing
Right.
with your building.
And that's a key component, because if the county fair said, yeah, we would like to share, then that might be an issue that we need to look at on the other side. So I guess from my aspect, I was glad you guys were coming today so we could get that squared away, that you still have a need, and that need still exists. The funding isn't there, and then it's potential for the county, and that's where we as the board will have to come to figure out where that location will be. If the board decides to put the location over by the school, well, like you said, we're probably not gonna help you
Right.
guys out with the, or not, that we wouldn't help you out, but I mean, we wouldn't be able to share services, it wouldn't logistically make sense. So then we have to find other means for how to build, a building to suit your needs. But
I
we
guess
need to look at that.
with what you're thinking there at the fairgrounds, is that even suitable for what is being looked at for the new building and all the other sheds that are gonna go with it? Do
Yeah,
you
we're-
even have enough land there? to
We're
do that?
still checking that out.
There would be no
yes.
room for expansion.
Exactly, and that's what I'm getting at. I mean, the excavation work that you guys would have to do to put that building down there, number one, would be enormous.
And that
Everything
has
is a
to be-
hill there.
Right, it has to be looked at. And the flip side is you're taking out potentially, you know, quite tens and close to $100,000 a year potential tax roll if you put it over by the school, and not allowing for expansion for developments over there. So there's the yin and the yang to all of that we have to look at, that, you know, yeah, you might not have expansion here, but you're not allowing for development expansion over by the school, which is prime location for real estate for people that want to have houses over by the school. So we got to weigh those options out, and that's the task that's before the board. But we needed your input too, as far as what your intentions are and where the fair board's going. And
Where would you place the building?
Where would I put it?
Yeah,
Out on that highway?
but I mean, a
Just-
sheep, okay,
Oh,
your
for
sheep
the
building.
sheep and hog
Yeah,
building?
Yeah,
I guess we'd probably like to put it right back where it is, but, you know, again, logistically, if you're
arena.
gonna be running big equipment up there, you're not gonna have room to get in and out of there with the arena there and
no.
the other buildings that are surrounding it. So, I mean, that's where it potentially doesn't make sense to think of it as a storage facility for you guys, because you got a lot of big equipment that, you know, the small stuff, I realize that is what you're thinking of putting in there. But it's not like you're gonna back a semi-trailer in between the corral and that hog building, or come in on the other side between the pavilion and the cattle barn. I mean, you're limited to space of what you're gonna get in and out of there also.
so you don't want us to help out?
I'm not saying I don't want you to help, I'm
Watching
just
it,
trying to figure out how you are gonna utilize this spot with big equipment.
Right.
I mean, the county really don't have a lot of small stuff, you're hauling it in on trucks and trailers, no matter what it is, and how are you gonna get it in and out of there and utilize it yourself?
The other thing I'd like to clarify as well is the usage. There's more than just 5 days out of the year that it's used. We have 9 horse shows, several weekend shows, 4-H has shows, there's a sheep and goat show.
Sheep and goat show.
Cattle shows, so it's used all summer long.
Well, like we were talking about too, like what you do with the bus garage, I'm sure there'd be provisions and stuff like that. And don't take it from me, if you guys don't want the county involved, I mean, we don't have to get involved, it's just an option that help you guys get a building, help us get some storage, but if you don't want the county's help in that, I mean, that's fine too. You know, it's discussion to have, and
It's not a concern about the county's help, it's just the,
well,
what are
financially,
the ideas are of you being able to utilize it versus us being able to utilize it? I mean, you're not talking about putting a huge building in there where you're gonna have 16-foot doors and you're gonna be able to get anything you want in and out of there. You don't have the land to get in and out of there without tearing more stuff down and getting it out of your way. I'm looking at it at the county side of it. How are you gonna utilize that building with the equipment that you have to move your stuff around?
What depends on what kind of equipment we're taking
Correct.
in there. I mean, we're
Correct.
assuming it's semi-trailers, which we've never said it was gonna be.
But,
So
I mean,
we'd have to figure out what. the
Even if you're gonna
utilized
put a plow
usage
up
is.
there, you're gonna come in there with an end loader probably and haul the plow in and out of that building. Are you gonna have enough room between the other buildings to get that in and out of your doors?
So it'd have to be something we measured and looked at.
You know, and that's my only concern with that. Is it really gonna be beneficial for you guys on that side of it?
Could I ask you guys a favor, since I don't know all of you?
Yeah.
Could you just introduce yourselves so that we have a name to go with the face?
I'm Christy Carmack.
Jeremy Johnson, President of the Fair Board.
Thank you.
There's several others here if you guys wanna.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, Craig, do you want put some input on this?
Well, I
mean,
just want to say that I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to go into it as far as how you want to utilize it and how, you know, there's other things to consider, like it's not just 5 days, there's other events going on, but to set up and tear down, you know, that's at least a month for the fair, just alone for that event. As far as setting up stalls or whatnot, and then cleaning out the barns, and not to mention you're left with the stench of hog manure for quite some time afterwards, you know, you gotta consider a lot more than just how you're gonna utilize it for, getting in and out, but there's other things involved as well. So I just wanna say there's gonna be, had to be a lot more discussion than just this, as far as what specifically you guys want, or you would wanna, highway department would wanna store in there.
Yeah, I think we need a lot more discussion on even picking a site at this point. We don't have enough information on anything yet.
I think that's why the county board wanted to have you guys to come in, is to start those discussions. Is it possible, and do you want to do something like that? And that's the first step. You know, and like I said, if you don't want to, great, let us know, so that goes into our determination of where this.
I think
you know,
we would be
site
fools
needs
to say,
go.
no, we don't want your help. It's just, how are we gonna do it to make it beneficial for everybody?
Right.
And right now, as far as storage in all the buildings except the one that Steve's auction business is in, the stuff is out of there, what, April?
Probably by the weekend.
For sure. And out
Yeah.
until October, so I mean, the buildings are open all summer.
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah.
if you guys are storing stuff in there, limits us as to how much we can use that building off fair season.
Well, and I'm just thinking, you know, looking at it from all angles too, you know, we've got things that need to be stored, mowers, things like that, off-season equipment that you could store in the wintertime that would be out of there for the summer. I mean, there's those options as well. So that's where I want, at least from my seat, those discussions to go is this possible to utilize? And maybe it's not, and maybe the logistics isn't there, maybe the use isn't there, but I don't feel that I could comfortably vote on a site location without first exploring all options and possibilities. And
Well, that's one thing that we're gonna be looking at down the road, if we do get that building up, is we're gonna want off-season storage somewhere or another anyway, so.
To help pay for the building. And that's the other thing. I mean, if we shared it with the county, how would we regain the expense of that building ourselves? Right now, for the upkeep on the other buildings, we'd have off-season storage, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Would be 6
Could
one
we,
way.
could we split that with you guys, where we'd have part of the building and you guys would have part of the building, or would it be all county stuff in there?
Well, and that's discussion. I mean, it'd be 6 one way, half dozen the other. Either you
Right.
pay for it yourself and recoup on storage costs, or the county helps pay for it and you get it paid for. But then the caveat is we get to store for X
Right.
amount of months as well. So, I mean, that's whatever would be better beneficial, you know. I know, obviously, it's harder to raise money for a building than to just, you know, have the county that's already got the money proposed situation set up to say, hey, let's just utilize it. So, you're right. What would be the best way financially for both parties? I don't know.
I don't know if you guys pay attention, but I mean, we spent a lot of money on repairing buildings out there, a lot of new electric services for a hall. Basically, it looks like a new building, and I mean, we work hard at keeping buildings up.
And very nice job too, might I add. A lot of comments last year I heard from people walking around too, that people said it looked really nice.
We try to do something every year. It just, if money's there, we can do it. If we can't, we can't. It just,
Yeah.
Township money gets used on the grounds only, it can't be used for entertainment and that kind of thing. It basically stays on the grounds.
Sure.
And that's the way we address the townships. So. And then we also write other grants and stuff too.
Yeah.
And you'll all have to come and dance on the new dance floor.
Well, and I know from, I guess, again, I can only speak for myself, but, you know, I appreciate everybody too, the time that goes into the fair and getting everything set up. I know it's a big dedication, and for those of us that look forward to the county fair as our benchmark every year to the, kind of the end of the summer before school starts, you know, I appreciate everybody's hard work out there, and I'm glad that y'all are taking that, you know, that responsibility and doing that. And I guess, you know, I'd like to see something continue as far as maybe discussion amongst yourselves. If that's something you want to continue with, then go down that road. And if it's not, just let us know, just so that we know what direction to move forward, where we're going to go.
I guess, first of all, before we can go any further, you guys are gonna have to decide where you're going
Mhm.
and what you need. I mean, until you guys decide that, we might have to change our stuff up to accommodate what you guys are thinking.
I think it's kind of, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? I mean, we're going to have an issue where, you know, if that's something you guys wanted to utilize, maybe that's going to be some weight on that side. Maybe it would say, you know what, the fair doesn't want us over there, it's impeding, there's something on the other side. So, you know, as far as that goes, you might want to have a plan A and a plan B that, you know, you guys utilize whatever building you want, and we'll see if we can use it. If we can't use it, or we don't want to go over there, then we don't, you know?
My main concern with it, like I said, is our parking.
Yep.
If the county building takes up any more parking than what we have right now,
Mhm.
the fair's history. I mean, let's face it, they're not gonna walk from the stoplights into them grounds. And right now, by 11 o'clock every morning, them parking spots are full.
Yep.
You know, the handicap parking, we've expanded that the last 3 years. It's doubled what it has been. And it's full every day at 11 o'clock. So if any more of that gets used up for any expansion of what the county shop does, it's just gonna hurt the fair. The fair is just gonna go downhill. People are gonna quit coming because they cannot get on the grounds.
Yep.
You look at Main Street when the fair is going on at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning. You can't get a parking spot on it.
Or any of the
Washington
side streets.
Right,
Yep.
I mean, so that is my main concern. If the county building was put there, it's gonna hurt the fair. You know, if any more ground is taken up, it is gonna hurt us.
And I've worked in the past with Whipkeys, and it wasn't necessarily even to buy ground from them. I was talking about them, and being that they've got cattle, that they could put hay in the area next to the fairgrounds, and we could just lease it, just for parking.
Right.
And that has to be,
You know, it's harder and harder out there to get things done. I mean, not just financially, but we're cramped ourselves for room. You know, everything is expanding, everything's getting bigger. Nothing is getting smaller. Just the cattle trailers and the trucks coming in with stuff. They need a place to go to.
and I think the fair is getting bigger.
The fair is getting bigger every year. You know,
And the
it
same thing
is
happens,
expanding.
And that's one of the things to look forward toward, I guess, as a highway shop is concerned too, because everything, the trucks are getting bigger, equipment is getting bigger, and there will be a need to expand.
Yes.
And,
Well, I mean,
you
the
know,
direction to send you, I don't know.
Yeah.
But all I can express is if the county shop goes where the talk is staying where it is, and you need more land on my side of it and the board side of it, we know it's gonna hurt us.
Yep. So, just so that everybody's clear, so we're not spreading any more rumors or misinformation, I don't think the board's talking about taking any land, and I don't think that's on the table, that we're gonna take any more land.
Okay.
So
We
just-
will not.
So you don't need to worry about
Mhm.
that. As far as the parking goes and all that kind of stuff, we know that it's tight. You know, we like to park over there whenever chance we get to, so, you know, that's on our radar, so I think you guys can kind of put those fears to rest, that we're not gonna all of a sudden have a highway department building right up next to the cattle barns over there where the arena is. It's not even been discussed, so you can kind of put those to the side.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us? I mean,
No, but you just, you know, if you guys want to discuss it, you know, and like I said, if you guys don't feel that there's any benefits to it, so just let us know so that we can kind of make some determinations on our end. But with it being a possibility, it's a conversation I think needs to have been had, and I'm glad you guys came in so we could have that discussion, you know, but.
and you guys got anything for them?
I just feel that if the county shop is gonna go on the grounds that it is gonna go on, there would be a chance to discuss sharing that building
Yep.
up on top there.
Yep.
Throw it
Right, you're right, and Dwayne, I appreciate you bringing that up too. You know, and that's the thing too, that, you know, I guess we've talked about it in the past, it really wasn't brought up lately, and I guess that's one of the things I wanted to clarify is that still discussion, I know you'd mentioned, you know, putting up a tent, we didn't know if it was gonna be just kind of a portable structure, or if it was gonna be, you know, like whatever it was gonna be, or if it was just kind of off the table for now, you know, I mean, it's just, let us know kind of where you're at.
Well,
Broke.
When we talked about the sheep building being in such poor shape, we immediately looked at combining the whole building, and a lot of it is the water from them roofs always drop between those two buildings.
I remember you mentioning
That's
that.
out of the whole thing.
Right, yeah.
And we really didn't have anybody that was behind this at all until they realized how poor a shape the hog building is in too. And I mean, those buildings were built in the 20s. I mean, they've served their life. And basically, the hog building was two buildings, and they just brought the roof up. It's not even remodelable. You can't remodel it.
Right.
There's just too many posts holding the roof up. So that was the whole idea with that. And I mean, it's gonna happen that the building's gonna have to get replaced too. I mean, that's
Down the road, something's gonna have to be done there, whether,
And actually, we passed a motion that there isn't another building goes up where the sheep barn was because of that water situation.
problem.
Now, Mr. Pullman, I know you'd mentioned that water before. Was there any talk about gutters being put on or anything to deflect that water away and run it out?
No, not really.
And and I think
You'll need a
touch on
storm
that,
sewer or some kind of
right,
a,
there is a storm sewer on the end of it, but
Yeah.
where are you gonna shoot that water? I mean, you can put all the gutters on it and downspouts, but where are you gonna shoot it? You're gonna shoot it right into another building. That building is surrounded by two other buildings, so there really is an escape path other than going out like by the horse barn or down by the pavilion there, and then you're just gonna swamp something else out with that water, so it's.
Other comments that have been made on that hog building also is that people can't see into those pens.
Right.
And that's why we want to go to gating, and the whole thing still revolves around that being two buildings. It's just, if you look inside of it, it is a mess as far as posts everywhere. It's just not a good building. So.
any more questions? Comments? We thank you. I appreciate you coming in. Eldon, would you like that back? Keep drawing.
Keep drawing.
Consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That motion is carried. Unfinished business. We want to talk about Highway Department?
I think we're still gathering information
and
on
I
it.
still-
You were gonna meet with Dennis.
Yep,
You
and I
just
haven't had a chance.
to-
Can we
Yeah.
have Brian come forward and talk about it some more so that we get questions answered that people
Certainly.
want to answer?
Yeah.
Want answers to?
Brian was all prepared to do this. I didn't know you were going to talk today, Brian. Looking spiffy.
I have
Your
a
trusty
little bit more
little
information than the meeting from 2 weeks ago. And if I could comment, if you would give me a second here on the fair and the idea of sharing a building in the site. You know, there's, I said before, sharing a building sounds great except for moving stuff in and out. You know, it's not like you're moving, 6 or 8 different big pieces of equipment out, and then you're done, and then you move back in. You're moving a bunch of small stuff more than likely, which takes time. If your neighbor has a garage sale, would you volunteer your garage 3 or 4 times a year to have them go and have the garage sale in your garage for a weekend? You have a lot of small stuff that might disappear. So you need to be careful with how stuff that might
This is all the information we're gathering.
disappear by
that's for sure.
sharing. And then as far as space on the site, our new building's going to be, 1 floor. We're not going to have multiple floor, so everything that's in the basement comes up on the main level, and the building spaces get bigger for vehicle storage and stuff. So overall, we're going to need to have a larger overall shop space, larger office space for circulation around the shop, along with long-term, we're going to need to have our salt storage under cover. So you start putting up another permanent building on the site. I really don't know how you're going to do that on the existing site without having more space, expanding into the fairgrounds are behind us. So, okay. Is the mic on?
Yep.
Mic on?
Okay. Try to speak a little bit louder. So this picture that I have loaded up right here, this is from a drawing that was presented 2 weeks ago. I added some dimensions onto the building spaces so you can see what the actual sizes of each space within the building. Because ultimately, what's going to set the building size is going to be the space of each office, the space of the stuff that we need to have within the building. If you can shrink it down, great. If not, we can't shrink the building down without the space internally getting shrunk. So if you look at the office space, I put dimensions on all the key areas that we have control over in size. Some of the areas within the building we don't have control over. I mean, the hallways are going to be whatever the code requires. Restrooms, whether it's one restroom or two restrooms, is going to be code as far as number of stalls. We really can't dictate if it's going to have one toilet for each men and women's or if it's going to be half a dozen. The building codes are going to determine that. So if you look at the other components within the building, I'm starting with the upper right corner, the meeting / training / break room. That room we have in there currently as a 30-foot by 18-foot room. Currently we have 2 spaces, and I'll open up another computation worksheet here. So we have a spreadsheet that was prepared that shows what's in the new building for space along with what we have in our current building. So currently we have 2 rooms that are about 13 by 14 foot each, total of about 364 square feet. The space we have now is not adequate. When we have meetings, we have people standing in the hallways. If we have entire staff meetings, we need to go in the back engineering area. People are standing around tables, no place for anyone to sit down. It's really difficult to have full staff meetings and to have meetings with the public and meetings with pre-construction meetings with contractors and utility companies and everything at bid openings. Those meetings typically have 20 to 25 people at them. Some of the meetings, when we have bigger meetings, we'll have them in the EOC. But then you're pulling all your staff out of our highway shop over to those meetings. It's more efficient to keep things where, at our office where the plans are available close by. We don't need to have staff running around in vehicles getting to and from those meetings. So the current plan, 30 by 18, is about 540 square feet. So total, it is an increase of about 180 square feet from where we're currently at. But when you have a meeting in that room, if you want to have someone taking a break, if you have someone in a over the lunch hour, then you cut that room in half and to have 2 18 by 15 rooms. 18 by 15 is not a real big room for having several staff having lunch or having a meeting. Next to that, if you go down to this below it, the accounting area, 15 feet by 24 feet for 2 accountants, plus all the files I have with them. There's probably 8 file cabinets I have to get into on a regular basis. We want to keep those file cabinets right by them, accessible for all their accounting files, different stuff that needs to get reviewed by the state auditors. So, you look at that, divide that number in half, is 15 foot by 12 foot per accountant, but then you take away that storage area, really you start squeezing down their area to maybe 15 feet wide by 8. And actually that 15 feet includes the exterior wall, the interior wall, so take another foot off that. So it starts shrinking that area down. So there's not a ton of space there once you start loading up that area with files and the staff. Engineering office, it's listed as 15 foot by 14 foot. Again, it has the exterior wall, or all the walls are included in these dimensions. So 14 by 14 is what my office currently is. The office works for myself and my needs. At one time, it was talked about having the office being bigger, to have a small table to have meetings with 2 or 3, 4 people around a table. The plan does not account for that type of space. So same size as the existing building. Workspace areas down at the very bottom right of the drawing. We have 8 foot by 10 foot workspace areas. Currently, the workspace and the areas are about 8 by 8.5. We do have one spot that's 8 by 10, roughly in space. So similar, slightly larger in size. We have a lot of large drawings. Everything we do is on 11 by 17 sheets or bigger. Those are pretty minimal workspace stations. There is one extra workspace station on here that would account for summer help. When we have summer help over currently, they need to share a spot with someone else or utilize the break room for an office space. In the past, when there was floods, we had hired a couple additional staff to help. When that happened, those staff had to be in the break room. Currently, when the state auditor comes down and they're auditing our files, which will be anywhere from 3 to 5 days in and out, different stuff, they do that in the break room. So we need to pull all the files over there and go through that stuff. So there's no place. Good that they can go and deal with those files without interrupting other meetings, other employees from taking their breaks. Lab, the lab in this file says 11 foot by 20 foot. Our current space is larger than that. It is 32 feet by 8 feet. So the lab space in this building is shrinking in size, which we should probably try to figure out a way to get that bigger. A surveying garage, 28 feet by 29 feet. It'll be, a survey truck, and then we have other equipment that'll go in there along with. We have the gator or the boat. There's other stuff that they use depending on what they're doing at that time of year, that it's nice to have it nice and close and easy access to them. To the left of that, we have the maintenance supervisor's office along with the mechanic. 11 by 22 foot for 2 shared office spaces. Again, it has the walls in there, so you figure essentially a 10 by 10, maybe 10 by 11 square foot offices. Electrical room, it's called computer room, 11 foot by 22 feet. It's kind of long and different shape than what our IT staff would like, but it's similar size to what was initially brought up a few years ago. It's actually a little bit smaller, but we don't have some of the staff in here that we used to have designing the building. Mail and copy room, 8 foot by 12 foot. We don't have this room now, but currently we have computers in our, we have a copier in the break room. We have large format printers back by my engineering staff that make noise when people are making prints or scans, and paper stored in the back area away from where all the printers are. It'd be nice to get it all centralized in one room along with mail. Plan room storage, 26 by 24. This is a little bit bigger than what we currently have for space. Currently we have about 400 square feet, so this is 620 or about 650 square feet. But we do have a lot of files that are stored over at the Department of Human Services, the Meyer building. So if we brought all those files back over to our office, it'll pretty much fill up the entire storage space right off the bat. So we don't have extra space really designed into that area of the building either. And then parts room, 32 feet by 41 foot. And then there's a couple tires and hazardous waste of 16 foot by 14 feet. If you look at that space for parts, currently for parts we have 15 square feet less internal storage than what the new building will have. So the parts room would be essentially the same size. But tires and miscellaneous storage for the mechanics, we have 224 feet in the new building. for each the tire and the hazardous waste. Currently, we have 800 square feet worth of storage for tires outside, plus another 1,200 square feet worth of storage for other materials outside, so about 2,000 square feet. So we're shrinking our storage space with this new design, knowing that in the future that there would need to be some type of cold storage for other stuff. And the other item that I'd like to point out would be the width of the building and the storage space for large equipment. The new building at 110 feet wide, what it provides for is a 4-foot walkway behind the vehicles over by the doors, 43 feet for the new plows or the new trucks we have, 16 feet in the middle between the front of one plow to the front of the other plow, and in that space would essentially account for a 6-foot walkway and 5 foot of additional expansion or storage in front of the vehicles. And then you have another plow truck and 4-foot walkway behind. On the bottom right side of the sheet has the truck size. In 1993, we had single axle trucks. They were with the plow on the front and the wing on the side, essentially 33 feet long, or 32 feet 8 inches long by 11 feet 3 inches wide. When we went to tandem axles in 1896, the truck jumped up in length to 38 feet 4 inches long. And from 96 to 2013, it's jumped up to 94 feet, or 42 feet 4 inches. So it went up 4 feet in size in 17 years. Width-wise, our latest tandem axle truck is a foot wider. So, as you can see by looking at those years, and I could have pulled all other kinds of years throughout. It's just they continue on. 2010 is smaller than 2013. They just keep going up. So this additional 5 space in front of the trucks, currently it might be a little bit of extra space we could put something, but 15 years from now, 20 years from now, that space is used up, where then you have a 6-foot walkout down the middle and you have 4 feet behind the truck. You do need to do pre-trip inspections of the vehicles, and you do a full walk around to make sure everything's working, all the lights and everything. So you really don't want to eliminate the space behind the truck. Once you get beyond 15, 20 years out, then you start squeezing down that 4 foot of space behind the truck, may go down to 3 feet, 2 feet. Eventually you don't have space to do the walk around inside. So yes, there is a little bit of extra space in the building, in the the width of that building, but I don't think you want to squeeze it down. You squeeze it down, you're not going to add 10 feet to the width of a building. It's not going to work long term. So like I said, office space, we're real similar in size. I don't want anyone to focus on the layout of the building. The layout of the building is going to change. The first thing I did when I saw this layout is, if you look at the walkway from where the maintenance staff comes into the building over to where the break/training meeting room is, you have to walk all the way through the building to get to the other end. I don't think that's a good design, because you're hauling mud and grease and everything else throughout the whole building. So the first thing I did is I went and tried to figure out what can be done. So I did my nice architectural work here, and I did some cutting and pasting by hand, taping stuff around, trying to figure out how to do stuff differently. And you can see that there's ways to flip the building around to maximize some of these spaces, trying to minimize hallways and to minimize distances of tracking mud and dirt around the building. The other discussion that was brought up in the past was, do we need 2 bathrooms, or can it be 1 bathroom? What I would prefer to see is have a locker room access directly out of the maintenance space, into the locker room, into a bathroom that's basically used by employees. It's an employee-only bathroom. It's going to have a lot more mud and grease and everything tracked into that bathroom. And then you have another bathroom right next to it, probably down right where the mail copy room area is, close to where a meeting room would be, that would have the public use and the office employees use more. That's going to be a bathroom that's going to be easier to keep clean. I'm not going to be intermingling the public with lockers that people are storing their own personal items in. So there's some benefits of having 2 bathrooms over 1. So there's a lot of discussions that need to take place, but I wanted to get feedback, at some point from the board on, the space. Is this what the board's looking for? Should we be planning more for the future than what we are. Because currently, if we add 2 more engineering staff or 1 more staff and 1 more summer help, they're going to be finding a quarter to get tucked into that's 4 foot wide, or start setting up a space in a meeting room. Or are we over designing the space and should not plan for any type of expansion in the future? The board's going to need to consider those items and present what you think, and let me know as we move forward.
Does that lab area, does that eliminate like where you have the old trailer outside?
That would be the replacement of the trailer. Currently our trailer, like I said, is 8 feet by 32 feet, and then we also have our shakers inside of our shop area. So it'd be nice to make this into a 11 foot by 30 foot space, and we can get everything into the lab instead of having some stuff in the shop still. But we're trying to balance, again, not have any more space than what we need, but at the same time, get us what we need.
Questions?
Yeah. We talk about we need to design for the future, and one of your own employees came in here last summer and said, when it comes to big trucks, we can't fix them anymore. They're too computerized. We send them out, get them fixed. So when we think about the future, do we need a mechanic capable of fixing big equipment, or just do general mechanic work? And if we don't need a mechanic, do we need a big parts room? I think it's a good idea to think about the future, and that's the realistic part of it, I think.
Some of the stuff, there's a lot of sensors, there's a lot of controls, reprogramming of the trucks that you need to take some of the stuff in to do. We're not going to buy the modules to fix all the stuff in-house, and I don't see that changing in the future. However, there's a lot of general maintenance stuff, the hoses, the welding, the replacing brake pads and
Wipers,
shocks, and the general
wear outs,
the general wear and tear type stuff. That stuff's not going to change. We're not going to want to eliminate that, hire that out. Currently, we only have time with 1 mechanic to do the large equipment. We don't do anything with small equipment in house. If we have any brake issues, oil changes, that type of stuff with the pickups, typically it gets sent out. When we go to Ellingson's or to one of the local mechanic shops. So, most highway departments have 1 mechanic at a minimum. Some have 2 or 3. I think Mower County has, last I heard, I think they had like 6. Olmsted County has a lot more too, but they have, totally different type of facilities. So, I don't ever see us going away from having a minimum of 1 mechanic. There's some safety benefits of having 2. There's some, a lot of benefits of having 2 mechanics. You can do a lot of stuff in-house. But the current plan, 1 mechanic can pretty much use up all these spaces by himself. Might have 1 extra space. If you had 2 mechanics, you could still function in it very easily. And then if you look at the mechanic space, like I said, you have 4 large equipment spaces. So say that you're working on something that takes longer term to fix, or not a priority. Working on fixing the mowers, or you're working on, mowers are a bad example, but say you're working on the pup trailers, or something that, the spare dump truck, or something that's not going to be used every day during the winter. You put that up in 1 bay. You have a second bay that's being used for being fixed, a vehicle that's coming in off the road that needs to be fixed right away. So then you take up 2 spaces. The mechanic's truck essentially houses most of the vehicles, or most of the tools that are being used on a daily basis. So you need to have that close by to where he's working. You're not going to set the mechanic truck outside and have him going in and out to get all of his tools. And then you have the other large space, which you can change cutting edges in. You can do other type of stuff. A lot of times we'll have other maintenance staff doing welding and stuff, replacing or fixing up truck boxes and flatbeds and stuff, working on trailers. So 4 spaces can very easily be taken up at all times, or
Yeah.
at least at a lot of
That
times.
was my next question.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could squeeze it down to 3, but, you know, what do you eliminate? You know, the building's being expanded out, essentially by 2 at a time, so.
I understand during the winter, cutting edges are quite a, they're doing them all the time, right?
Cutting
How long
edges.
does it take to do an edge?
Some,
Is that
to,
a-
to change the cutting edges out doesn't take a whole lot of time. You know, you just take a few bolts off, put a new one on. You know, you need to, you know, have the cutting edges available where you're easy to get at. Sometimes you need to cut them off, you know, if the bolts are rusted up and stuff. But
Do all the
a-
satellite plows come in and to the Caledonia to get that done, or
No,
does
they
he
do
go
them
out
at,
to the other one?
they do them at their own shops. Each shop has, you know, space for their own, you know, minor equipment repairs, but, cutting edges, they'll last anywhere from, on a roadway that's freshly seal coated with, Class A aggregate, they can burn up a cutting edge in half a day, you know, 4 hours, they can burn up a cutting edge. On other routes, they can go a full day with a cutting edge. So they're changing them out on essentially a daily basis, or sometimes twice a day.
I know half the La Crescent Township hall is county, and they have a lot of supplies in there.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with dimensions. So, like I said, I do have plenty of other stuff that I could show you. We did go to the city of Caledonia back in November 2008 at a city council meeting, and they reviewed the zoning application for the highway shop out by the school on approvals for that and restrictions. There's a big long discussion here and different approvals that the city of Caledonia did for that site for building height and size and stuff. So that's available to the board, you know, if you want to see that.
Is that on our disc?
That should be on your disc, yes. I'm not sure what folder it's buried in, but it
Okay.
is on, well, actually, you know what? It's not on the disc.
Okay.
I added it after, so, but I can get it to you.
Okay.
And then, you know, spacing needs, you know, I always, you know, I can go to any shop out there that's being built, and you can look at spacing needs, you know, look at what other shops have used for meeting break/lunchroom areas. You know, it's a lot bigger than what we have in ours. Public toilets, you know, in a public area along with staff area, separate toilets, you know, just for that cleanliness. Heated storage, this is what Onalaska has for heated storage. Essentially, most of their large vehicles, their pickups, you know, motor graders, backhoe, that's all in heated storage. You know, different vans and trucks. Cold storage, they have the same type of stuff that we, you know, are considering for cold storage. You know, the mowers, chippers, the plows and stuff during the summer. You put that type of stuff in cold storage. And then outside, 4 trailers, another 4 trailers and 2 vehicles, another 2 abandoned vehicles. You know, essentially, other ones are trying to put all their equipment inside, you know, pickups and everything. We're not proposing to do that at this time, but, you know, what we're proposing is not something that other ones aren't doing. We're proposing less than what most entities are building.
When you were looking at that storage area, it just made me think, where does the sheriff's department store their impounded cars now?
There's a shed at the highway department.
Okay.
And actually, if you look at this sheet here, you know, I don't want to give away all of the county's secrets and where stuff's kept. But cold storage building, this is really scaled down from what it says, but Sheriff's Department storage. Initially, there was storage in our shop for 3 heated storage spaces for Sheriff's Office, I believe. I can't remember if there's 3 or 5 spaces of cold storage for Sheriff's Office stuff, along with a fenced-in impound area. So there was plans in the past for Sheriff's Office stuff out here.
I thought I remembered hearing that.
And that can be a pretty good-sized inventory, because I know it's filled the building that you have now, and then over the fairgrounds also. So business is good there.
Sad to say.
Yeah. So.
Could use a new car.
Any other questions? If not,
No, it sounds good. I wouldn't mind having copies of that. If we don't, we have the disc already.
yeah, I
but
can
anything
email.
that's not on it.
I can email you the stuff that got
Okay.
brought up here today, along with the stuff from 2 weeks ago.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah, I think I can get you all of that in one
Get
email
quite
with a lot of
file,
attachments.
But it's nice when it's on a disc.
I would like to tell you, my fellow commissioners, that if you really want to do some reading some night and have some time on your hands, look up solar blacktop. It's a new product coming out where the solar charges the blacktop and it melts itself. So I'm really getting crazy now. You might not even have a need for plows in the future.
You know, and I think when we
But
leave.
it
Not
paints-
quite there yet.
And it paints its own line, Brian. Have you ever seen that?
I saw some issues with
Just
solar stuff.
Google solar
Yeah,
blacktop.
6-7 years
At
ago.
this point, it's way too expensive, but they're working on things, and who knows, you know.
Mhm.
Well, I think we also gotta look at,
They even do advertising with solar, and it also charges electric cars. So that's just some of the things that are out there. It's really
it's common.
somebody put me onto that, and I looked it up one night. It's a lot of reading.
Well, you said MinDOT or whatever was funding it because it's in its prototype stages, and they wanted to see if it would be beneficial for parking lots and things like that without, heavy
Mhm.
traffic. And it would be interesting to see what the future holds. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing that stuff in, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
I know we'll have more discussion,
Mhm.
For the next, I'm sure, few months as to what's going on. And-
Weekly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
I mean,
think-
yeah, right, weekly, but I mean, over the next few months until
Mhm.
decisions are being made, we'll have a lot of
Right.
discussion. And I guess with that, I know Brian had made the comment too, you need some direction from the board and where
Yes, right.
plans are going and stuff like that. As being a representative of the people from my area, I guess I'd like an opportunity to hear what they would like to help determine the direction that I should be pushing towards. And with that, I would like to see at least one, if not many, public hearings, just so that we can do presentations like this and then get immediate feedback from people and hear from it and open up those discussions. It's not a bad thing to have public hearings, but to be able to do a presentation before the public hearing, let the people know what's happening, and then be able to hear what some of their comments may be, or questions or concerns, or maybe even possible alternatives that we have yet to hear from, that would work. So with that being said, I would like to see at the end of May, at least the first public hearing to be held, just to get people to have some discussion and interact with the board. And I would move that the last Tuesday in May, we would hold a public hearing.
I think we wait till we get to a point of
I think
Yeah, I
that,
location,
apologize, there's actually a motion
possibly
on the table.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
didn't know you made a motion.
that's what I just said. My motion would be that we have one at the end of May, the last Tuesday in the evening for a public hearing.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I'll
Motion
second.
on the floor. There is a second.
I'll second.
Is there further discussion?
Well, I think that what Brian did today is really a good thing, because it gives the information here. We can tell people to please, go to our website and view it. Give us input. That's what we're elected for, is to get input from our constituents so that we can hear what they're saying. And it's not just the people who are here, but there's more people that are giving input also. And that's part of your job as a commissioner, is to listen to that. And if you feel,
Silence.
Well, I think the only reason why there's laughter, Judy, is what you're describing is exactly a public hearing to be able to hear from the people. So that's what you're asking for, is essentially. a
but
public
I'm
hearing.
asking for information every week that would come forward, like, let's compare the two sites one week. Let's talk about that. I think we could do this every week and
Yep.
have a different thing that we're talking about. If you would try and put all of that into one night, plus get public comment, you're gonna have a really, really long time. Why don't we inform people so that they know what's going on every week? I mean, like,
And that's what we would keep doing, is doing that every week, and then you'd have every so many months, you could hear from the people that have been watching the board meetings, that have
About a
comments, an opportunity to allow them to comment on what they have been seeing transpire over those next couple of months. Otherwise, the worry is right now, which is great, we're bringing information. One of the worries that I've heard from a lot of people is the fact that by doing it in the way that we're doing it right now, we can actually give out information and only information we want the public to see, because we're controlling the environment. So, hey, we only want you to see these numbers and this. They're not giving an opportunity for the public to ask the questions or to ask, why is it that way, or why is it? So you're controlling kind of the data that's going out there.
I completely disagree with you.
Well, let me finish, and then
No,
you can
let's have
So,
conversation here,
I guess
Justin, instead of you just talking all the time
Well,
and
I'm
not
trying to
letting
do
people
that, and you kept,
interact.
Okay, Judy,
you
let him
kept
finish,
interrupting.
please.
So, in essence, allowing the conversations to take place with the public present allows the opportunity for them to ask questions that we can answer and have that dialect. Otherwise, the concern is that you're only allowing the information out that you want to be allowed out, and then not allowing the public to really have an opportunity to comment on it. So let's have some open discussion with the public. It's not a bad thing. I know public hearings, I guess, over the maybe last while have gotten a bad rap or a negative connotation to it. It was originally set up as a tool, as a governing tool to hear from the people and allow dialect to come back and forth. And what Brian did today was very good. Let's bring that in. Here's why we want what we want, and then let's hear from the people and say, okay, that's great. We now understand that. Here's a question. What if you guys did it this way? Hey, let's talk about that. In a few months, maybe we hold another public hearing. We know that with the school or with the pool, I think in the Argus, they just had to deal with the pool, that there was going to be a open public forum to have those conversations and what they want to do. And that's where I think the board needs to get back to, is there's a lot of distrust between people in the community, in the board, and in all that kind of stuff. We need to get back into those conversations and allowing people to get involved. Otherwise, people feel that it's just getting rammed down their throat, and you hold a public hearing, and what's the point? Because nobody listens. You're just going to spend the money anyways. So let's just open those dialects up, and let's just hear from people. And it can be a very good thing. You know, it doesn't have to be a negative connotation to it, but it allows the open, transparent governing, so you can have a presentation.
Wrap it up here.
Are we under a time schedule? Or?
No, but you
No,
seem
you're
to be
kinda right.
dominating the time with
Well,
your
I'm
comments.
just making a point as a commissioner from my district, I guess,
Mhm.
if we were under a time
Point made,
restraint. you know.
point made. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right,
Mr.
so
Storley.
I disagree with what you're saying, because we need to get the information here. We need to present the information. We haven't had conversation between each other. And as far as talking about our board and not being trusted, I just disagree. I think that people vote you in because they have trust in what you're doing. And repeatedly, you hear people say that this is what we elected you to do. I take that very seriously, that this is what they elected us to do. This is research. This is what we need to do. This is getting facts out, so when we hear public comment, people will understand what we're doing, instead of just what's perceived. We can say, this is what we're looking at. These are the facts. This is what we're seeing. That's the part that we're not getting people to yet, and this is how to do it. Have this during our meeting. Have people, people will email and I'll say, you know what, we're going to discuss this at the meeting. Look at the video. If you have any questions, please contact me. And be, and people are respectful of that. They're not pushing for them to make the decision. That's, our county engineer knows what his job is. The people who are in his office know what his job is. Just like our county attorney knows what their job is. And our auditor knows what their job is. Part of that is what their jobs are. Are we going to micromanage every department and say, let's see what your budget is and where did you spend this dollar?
But
Because
we do that, but keep going. Keep going, sorry.
don't interrupt me.
Don't fight.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I got criticized for it. I'm going to do it right back. It's like, that's what people elect us to do, and that's what we hire people to do. And I think we need to give value to that. And how can you set a public hearing date when you don't even know how much of the stuff we've discussed?
Okay.
We need more information at this time before we have a public hearing. I did receive quite a few calls from people who watched our different presentations, and then they got suggestions from them. But I also did hear that it doesn't sound like we're ready for a public hearing at this point.
Well, and I think Judy and I are in the same agreements. This is good, getting the information out to the public.
Mhm.
The only thing that we're disagreeing on is hearing from the people. I would like to hear from them in a public forum where they can address all the board and can have other people listen to what their comments are versus written emails. I know you mentioned that, people are welcome to email you with their comments. I guess the one question is, I know Cindy Hobelsberger had emailed me because she had concerns because she emailed you and your email blocked her. So now how does she know that she can get
Do you know what, if you
information
want
out
to
to her?
discuss this, we'll discuss it at another time.
Well, I'm just asking you, how do you
This is not the
yell?
time for that discussion.
Well, it's perfect time. The question is, if somebody's email is blocked, how do they get to all the commissioners? A public hearing is a great way to do that. So I would like to see that done, and I'll actually call for the vote.
Call, that's
Roll
what I
call,
wanted to hear.
please.
District 1,
Could you repeat the motion?
Reset, please.
to hold a public hearing the last week in May.
Yep, in the evening at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
No.
District 4.
No, I don't think we're ready.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay.
I just.
So
I'm not
then the
ready for
question
that.
is, we don't want to hear from the people,
I've been hearing a lot. I've been getting a lot.
Okay, let's
of
move
calls.
on.
I don't hear what you
No,
guys
let's
hear.
move
because
along.
you get emails, so how does that?
I do.
Let's move along, please.
This is good
Okay.
conversation to have, and
Yeah.
I think this would be a good time. I was going to do this during commission report, but I have a letter from a concerned citizen in my district.
How about bringing it up during
He
commissioner
can't come
reports?
to the
Let's-
meetings because he's a farmer.
Yeah, let's finish
I'd sooner
the
do it,
agenda.
But it's about the highway department, so
Mhm.
I didn't know if you want me to do it now or later, but.
How about commissioner reports?
All right.
Is that all right?
I do have
Thank
it.
you. Okay, I don't think there's anything new on historic jail issues that I'm aware of. Anything?
I
Okay.
haven't heard from the public from our vote last week. Nobody really contested
No.
any of the
Mhm.
things.
Okay, now commissioner reports. Commissioner Chomey, would you like
Yes.
to start? I'll lead us off, please.
I'll pass it down. This is a letter from a taxpayer in my district, like I said, who can't come to the meeting because he's a farmer, and he asked me to give us to each one of you. And what he says is what I've heard from a number of emails and telephone calls. A lot of people are saying the same things this guy is saying to me. And I guess I thought it was a very good article, and he asked me to pass it on, so. Other than that, I didn't have.
I do think that Steve is meeting with Dennis from.
Yeah, as soon as I can get.
to get a lot of the,
Yeah. Been a kind of a tough week.
Sorry, you don't have one for this.
in the gathering of information.
Yeah. Commissioner Chomey, anything else?
No,
Okay.
thanks.
Commissioner Walter?
No, I didn't have any extra meetings. I did have a lot of calls and discussion about what we're doing and everything, which we are discussing.
Very good. Commissioner Kaminsky? New?
Anything new that I haven't talked about already? No, probably not.
Thank you.
Do you have any meetings?
Commissioner Storley?
Okay. Steve and I went to the Fillmore County.
Video conference.
Yep.
There it is.
I have it in here somewhere. And they talked about how to get, how to support different funding for public health. The director of, the commissioner of health, public health was at the, was on the video thing from the meeting, and he just had a lot of good information and places for us to give input to.
Mhm.
And
Mainly
then-
it's, yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, mainly it's looking to get public health out there, getting more input and doing more things, I guess, in public health. So it was an overall, just basically a discussion on trying to get more involvement, get
Yeah.
more involved.
And
Parking lot. Right.
then on Friday, I went to a housing forum that was held in the county. It was put on by Bluff Country HRA and the SEMCAC. And it was a multi-county HRA meeting. And we talked about the different housing available and the new fundings that have come out. It it was a lot about learning about loans and people to connect with, and you get to meet, you know, people in person from the USDA office and from MHP and Robin Bipes from the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. They had a lot of information as far as connecting people to certain loans and programs in the county. And as a HRA, we're keeping the banks, trying to connect more with the banks in this area, so it provides people with more housing opportunities. And they talked about funds coming available for first-time home buyers, but also for even people who are doing improvements to their homes. There's just really a lot that's available out there that people don't know about. And they talked about how to get housing projects going in the area, to get affordable housing for families. And it was good. If anybody has any questions about this, our EDA person was also there. Then they could come to our EDA meetings and ask questions about it too. And then after that, I had the Bluff Country Housing Association meeting, and they're looking at a couple of projects that are, one of them is in Spring Valley that were low-income housing that now aren't being taken care of, and so that's one of the projects that we're going to be taking on, kind of like we did Vesterheim in Preston. And the people there are so happy with their houses. Financially, we're doing okay. There's also, to our county was awarded $678,318 through MCPP. That can be loans to bring for people to buy houses. It's another mortgage product that's out there. And that was my meetings.
Okay, and I just had the public health video conference. So, can I have a motion to approve claims, human services, and license center disbursements?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
I had a question on one claim.
Okay.
There was one for the transport job, refrigeration one for, was that for the trailer for the Rick Frank, 10,500?
I don't know off the top of my
I
head.
just assumed that it was, yeah.
You show me where it is, and I can tell you what.
I forgot to ask you.
I should have given you a number. It's
Yeah.
on the front of them.
Mhm.
Pass that down. If
We
you
had-
find it, I can look up.
We went and gave them permission to go ahead and buy it, or did we tell them to bring it back to us?
Oh, yeah, last one. Oh, Great Dane trailer, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we had given them permission to buy it if it was under 15,000 or
Yeah,
something like that.
That was my
Under-
question.
I think
What-
it's
what
under
number-
12.
What number was that we went at?
Under 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I knew it was
That
under
was just a
something.
big number.
That if he found it, he had permission.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And Chairman, real quick, one last thing, I don't know if it goes in a discussion item or where it would go, but just to clarify, I know Mr. Auger had came in this morning as far as their convenience store in Houston and the whole thing with the e-cigarette sales that, you know. I guess-
Brownsville.
What's that?
Brownsville?
Houston.
Was it Houston? Okay, excuse me.
You know, I thought Mary Marshall was gonna talk to
Yeah.
him about that and give him a copy
She
of
did.
this.
She sent an email
Yeah.
out to us.
Okay.
Yep, and that was a couple weeks
What is
ago,
he
I think,
looking
but-
for?
Well, it's just that, there's just that, I guess their issue was that, you know, they don't sell alcohol or anything like that, so they don't have to necessarily have kids over the age of 18 since they don't have
Right.
alcohol sales. Their big concern was just that with the ordinance that the county put in, that now all their employees have to be over 18, and they're getting a lot of the kids that
Only
are
if
working.
they're selling cigarettes or
Yeah.
alcohol.
Right. They
Right.
can
You
still
can go
work
in,
there.
yeah,
That's right, but the kicker is
But they
with
can't
them,
sell
they
e-cigs.
can't sell cigarettes or tobacco, and then they're just, you know, so I guess that's just the conversation.
Right,
you know.
I've seen large stores that a pack of or a carton of cigarettes comes along, and they have to step back and bring in a manager
That's
to
right.
check them.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Right, and that's,
It's-
and I guess I'm not 100% sure, but, you know, if they don't have an elder
Yeah, if they don't have a
manager on
s-
staff, and
right,
you
a
only
senior
have a
manager or
17-year-old
something.
Or something, I can see the issue that,
Yeah.
I guess the question was just, does the county want to look into that or anything, or is it just kind of, it
I
is what
think
it is,
that
or what's the?
also another thing is you're putting 16-year-olds under the pressure of their peers coming in and wanting to
Right.
buy cigarettes.
Exactly.
This way, we kind of protect them that way too and take that away from them, because if they can't buy them, then they can't
Right.
sell them, and I think that that's a good thing.
I guess I'm just kind of looking for direction maybe from the board as far as, I'll talk to Mr.
Yeah.
Auger about this, but just as far as this
Well,
board.
at this point, that is what the ordinance, how it reads.
Okay.
And
They can have people working there,
Yeah.
they're just not able to sell alcohol or cigarettes.
Okay.
But
If you want to change it, we have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just
I'm
looking
not
for
ready
just some
to change
discussion
it.
on.
I
We don't wanna
think that
start
we
doing
put a
that.
lot of
No.
thought into this,
Yeah.
and we
It's the first
had a
time we've
lot
had
of
a challenge.
discussion, right?
Over a year.
Well, and I just want to make sure that something wasn't overlooked or, that, I mean, this is an issue that I guess maybe wasn't foreseen coming up that, is this something that needs to be looked at or
Yeah.
further, or is it just the board just
from what
says
I've
it is
seen,
what it is, or?
that is the way it is.
Okay.
Woodman's,
it's also
You know,
going
it's-
statewide.
somebody that's 17 years old has to step back and call somebody in to
Mhm.
Yep.
scan,
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, me
scan
too.
cigarettes or alcohol. It just, the way it is.
Yep.
Just leave it the way it
And,
is.
we're not saying they can't hire them, but at that
Mhm.
time, if they don't have someone else in, then they can't sell cigarettes.
Yeah.
They can still sell gas or anything else in the store,
Right.
and I think that that's
I don't know,
fair.
because we've already talked, it's the same way with alcohol too, I know,
Yeah.
working at the stores for a better portion of my life, we always had to do that too, so I'm not 18, I
Mhm.
can't,
Yeah.
But, okay, well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
just have that discussion with the board,
Okay.
just to know what direction to go, so.
Thank you. Yeah, it should be, it needed to be addressed too, so if you
I also had a
Discuss it.
note down that the county attorney was gonna bring something
Yeah,
up.
we need to approve the claims, human services first,
Oh.
and then it's on with the show.
We have a motion and a second.
We do, okay. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They're approved. Sam? would you-
There's two things. One is, first one is, I don't know if the board all received it, but Auditor Miners and myself were served with a notice by the city attorney of City of La Crescent, Minnesota. They passed, they being the city of La Crescent, passed a resolution regarding a house in that, in the city of La Crescent that has been declared by this resolution of being a hazardous building. And the reason that we have anything to do with it is because back in 1997, the owner was granted a emergency assistance grant, I guess, and we placed an emergency assistance lien then on the property for the amount of $1,530.77. As the city has moved forward with this action to basically get rid of the house and sell the house, and they put the owner on notice, is that we would have a secondary lien on this or a secondary position on this. If what will happen now is the city will move to district court and they will get a hearing and they will ask the court for an order to allow them to move forward with dealing with the property. With us having the lien on it, we'd have the ability to object. What we would have to do then is basically fix up the house, which is an unfixable condition. And then we would be able to recover hopefully our money, but then we'd be at a
You'd have
negative
extra
on
house,
that.
yeah.
In addition, this lien, from my research here, from the mortgage being back from granted in 1997, there's certain things with mortgages that have to be done to keep them in existence or alive, if you will. I don't know if it's maybe has been done in this case, and so I mean, to use an overworked phrase, I don't think the lien we have is worth the paper it's on. And so I just want to give the board, I can appear at that hearing and object, but I think it perhaps would be best, my suggestion would be for me to receive a directive from this board to write draft a letter to Attorney Weiser saying that we don't object to them moving forward in district court.
Was it a judgment or was it was it a mortgage that was?
It was an emergency assistant lien. We have
Okay.
it's a lien, it's entitled a lien, but I believe it would be, it's considered a mortgage.
and against the property, it's a secondary one. And then even if we're primary on this, well, that's fine, we have to then go through the action to recover our $1,500. From what I've been able to find too is that the person who owns the property, I don't know if we would have jurisdiction to go after them or in this state. They don't appear to be in this state, they appear to be in another state. And so then we would have to bring the action in another state and retain counsel to do that. So I just don't think at this point here, this, it's worth pursuing at this time, the $1,500.
Agreed. So we don't need to do anything?
I don't need a motion on that issue, just if that's the directive of the board, to just draft a letter to Attorney Weezer for the city of La Crescent saying that we're not seeking to move forward in enforcing our lien.
Yeah, you could spend a couple of, so much legal time trying to get it and not get anything.
And if this was 15,000 or 150,000, it'd be a different discussion we'd be
Right.
having, but at this point here, just from the, I don't know if anyone want to look at the color pictures that were attached, but.
It was passed. Passed.
You've seen it? Okay,
Mhm.
and so, anyone can see from that the cost would be incredibly prohibitive to move forward.
You just need a consensus of the board?
Or that's just some directive, if the
To
board's directive.
send a letter.
To send a letter to Attorney
Mhm.
Weezer.
Consensus? By consensus? Sounds
Go
good.
ahead.
Mhm.
The second issue is, I'll need a motion, is that there's a former employee that was charged with a crime, and it's set for trial, he's with a crime, it's set for trial May 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, it's 4 days. I know it's 4 days, I believe it's those 4 days. It's not something that we didn't create the conflict in our office. We reached out to, or at least my office did, to Olmsted County. They have a special prosecution team, and this is a complex matter. So there'll be 3 people working on this. They will prosecute it for free. They won't charge us mileage to come down here, but as a matter of course, like when my office and we'll go over to Winona and do some special prosecution for them, we don't charge anything and we don't get any reimbursement because it's not an overnight stay. In the same way, when the Houston County Attorney was down last week or 2 weeks ago, tried a case here for 2 days she was here, we didn't reimburse them for anything at all. That was just an exchange that we do. But if we would be prosecuting a case in Olmsted County, I'd expect to be reimbursed for the cost of staying there overnight for the trial, as well as the meals. Our budget amendment request then would be, we checked at 3 local places, and it appears that these places fit the requirements. You're going to have some Wi-Fi at night for these people working. We anticipate a worst-case scenario here of $2,100, and this would include at $33. We used our meal rate at $33 a day times 3 people, so that's $99 times 4 days. And the maximum on the one was at Locan Sawmill Inn that was $135 a night times 3, which is $405 per day for the 3 people times 4 nights. Without tax, that comes to $2,016. My understanding, there's 4 witnesses in the matter, and so I would anticipate either a 2-day trial or a 2 days, and the 3rd day would conclude, and then the people would not stay overnight. So, I mean, certainly they have to justify everything with receipts, but I think my worst-case scenario is at $2,100. I think it's probably, we end up reimbursing them for probably half the amount. And they're not asking for mileage. In some places we've asked for mileage. So it's just the hotels and the meals, and it's 3 local places here that they would use. But it's quite a deal as far as for the county, is that if you would have hired somebody to do this, it probably cost 20 or 30 times the amount that they requested.
Right.
So I would need a motion to approve that budget amendment request.
Do you want a not to exceed, or do you want to just leave it open-ended for now, or what?
What was that?
Do you want like a not to exceed, like your 2,100, or do you want it open-ended
I
for
would,
right now?
I would have not to exceed 2,100.
Okay.
And that's what we would do, is say, here's the 2,100, and it's for these 2 purposes, the meals and the lodging, and for example, if they wanted to go to La Crosse,
Mhm.
and let's say they expend $2,500 total, well, that's fine, but you're gonna get 2,100 from us.
Yeah. So, this is just a budget amendment
Mhm.
from here,
Yes.
right? Okay, so, motion to approve a budget amendment of a not to exceed of $2,100 with the attorney's budget.
And that would be for, limited solely for meals and for lodging.
There you go, add that to that motion. For
I'll
meals
second
and
that.
lodging.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Is there any further business to come before this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is made to adjourn. Second. Anyone?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried. We are adjourned.